It's just astonishing. The left has been utterly demoralized. They're becoming increasingly hopeless, unhinged, hysterical. But nothing prepared them for the polls that just dropped that showed Trump's approval ratings on immigration and deportation. Let's just put it this way. If you thought the left was devastated before, you ain't seen nothing yet. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis that you're not going to get anywhere else. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. For 6 weeks, the nation has been watching a literal blitzkrieg of thousands of ICE agents and Border Patrol taking over Minneapolis. 10,000 confirmed arrests and deportations in Minnesota alone over the course of the last year. Nearly half of those arrests and deportations happening in the last 6 weeks in this surge. Now, of course, this deportation operation hasn't been without incident. Two people, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, end up getting themselves killed while interfering with federal law enforcement operations. But with all of that, we're now seeing a number of polls come in that give us a good idea of how the American people are responding to all of this. And let's just say, if the Democrats thought this was a winning issue for them, they're in for one rude awakening. RMG, one of the single most accurate pollsters of 2024, just dropped a bombshell. After everything people have seen coming out of Minneapolis, voters approve of the Trump administration's deportation of all illegal migrants by a 10-point margin, by double digits, 52 to 42. 10 point. It's an election. If it were an election, that would be called a blowout. That would be a landslide. But that is nothing compared to Mark Mitchell at Rasmussen. Again, Mark was one of the most accurate pollsters of 2024, a good friend of this channel. His polling shows a 62% approval among likely voters for Trump's program to find and deport immigrants who are here illegally. 55% want penalties on companies and corporations that hire illegals. And if you bought the legacy media's narrative that deporting illegals would cost Trump support among Latino voters, then you probably think gullible isn't in the dictionary. It's the exact opposite. Latinos love deportations. They love seeing MS-13 and TDA and drug pushers permanently kicked out of their neighborhoods. Look at these numbers. Again, this is from Rasmussen. Trump has surged among Latino voters by 30 points. He's now a +8 among Latinos, 53 to 45. We have never, ever seen a Republican with approval ratings like that among Hispanics. But we saw it spike right after the arrest of Maduro, right? The demographic that overwhelmingly supported that operation were particularly expat Venezuelans and Cubans, but Latinos in general. Trump is a hero as far as they're concerned. And just to round this all off, a recent Gallup poll found that a whopping 84% of Americans want voter ID laws enacted in all 50 states. 84%. Yeah, the feckless liberals in the Democratic Party are standing up against 84% of voters. Even CNN's Harry Enton had to admit that when it comes to border security and mass deportations, Americans are overwhelmingly on the side of Trump.
Yeah, sometimes I like blunt questions because they sort of get at the underlying feelings that people have. So this is about as blunt a question as you can get. Deport all immigrants here illegally. I will note the ABC News poll asked about undocumented immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deporting all immigrants who are here illegally, 55% of the New York Times. Marquette, 64%. CBS News, 57%. ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across 4 different pollsters.
Listen, gang, it is flu season, which means it's also flu shot season. After everything we've been through over the last 5 years, the number of people getting flu shots is at a record low, not to mention the fact that according to the CDC's own data, the flu shot is only moderately effective at best, and that's not even accounting for vaccine injuries. There's a much better way to stay healthy. Grab a Contagion emergency kit from the Wellness Company. Now, if you wake up with a sore throat or runny nose, address your symptoms immediately with this doctor-prescribed kit containing ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, generic Tamiflu, generic Z-Pak, and much more. It's like having an urgent care unit right in your own home. It's amazing. I have a Contagion emergency kit from the Wellness Company because I refuse to be trapped in a line in an emergency room or rely on expensive insurance if I catch a cold. I simply open my kit, I reference the doctor-written guidebook for safe use, and I get back to life. This kit is literally a lifesaver with thousands of reviews from people just like you and me who had their kit ready in a time of need. Go to twc.health/Turley right now and use code Turley, and you're going to save $48. Get it now before cold and flu season kicks into high gear. Again, that's twc.health/Turley, code Turley for 15% off. Kits available to U.S. residents only. Now, of course, if you're part of the legacy media's dwindling and dying audience, none of these polls makes any sense. I mean, remember, according to them, Hillary Clinton had a 91% chance of winning back in 2016. 91% chance of winning an election where she became the first Democrat to lose every single blue wall state in 40 years. Where Trump was the first Republican to win over 300 electoral votes in decades since George Bush Sr. did it. The legacy media lives in a reality of their own concoction, a manufactured cosmopolitan reality, in quotes, that lives and breathes by something called progressive realism. Now, if you don't know what progressive realism is, it's a radical ideology that believes that the arc of history inevitably bends towards a left-wing vision of social justice. So that means that inevitably, inexorably, no matter how inconvenient the interruption or the interim, i.e. Trump, eventually life is going to get back to normal. Meaning that the world is going to once again embrace the liberal consensus of open borders and shipping manufacturing overseas and the uncontested dominance of woke social values. But what if progressive realism isn't real? What if progressive realism isn't true? What if the arc of history actually doesn't inevitably move in the direction of liberal emancipatory politics? What if history actually moves the other way towards embracing nation, culture, custom, tradition, religion? What if populations are, as we speak, overwhelmingly and decisively and permanently rejecting progressive realism? Well, the answer to that, if that were true, you would see at least two things. You would see all the insane hysteria that we've been witnessing in Minneapolis when psychopathic leftists become mentally unhinged, and you would see precisely the kind of polling that we've been seeing. You see, the American people, and frankly populations all over the world, are fully embracing border security and national sovereignty. There's just no way around that. As you just saw in all those polls that Harry Enton had put together on CNN, border security is the number one issue driving voters today. Not just here in the United States. Border security and national and civilizational sovereignty is the single most popular political issue in the West and all over the world today. We've talked about this on a number of our other videos before, but the major current that's driving the support is what's called post-security politics. You might want to write that down, post-security politics. And that's where concerns about border security, economic security, and cultural security are all adding up ultimately to one thing, and that is a worldwide populist revolution that's changing planetary politics literally like never before. I mean, we're seeing it everywhere. Japan just elected their most nationalist populist prime minister since World War II. Nationalist populist parties have grown 400% in Europe over the last 2 decades. They're now the number one party, most popular party in the UK, France, Germany, and Italy. Latin America is shifting overwhelmingly to the right in election after election after election. India's gone full Hindu nationalist. Putin's, of course, resurrected Orthodox Russia. Xi's reigniting Confucian China. Everywhere we look, national and civilizational identity is being reasserted through border security, economic security, and cultural security. That's the politics, the post-security politics of the 21st century. Progressive realism has been replaced with post-security politics. That's the politics that are causing Minneapolis liberals to collapse into psychotic hysteria. And that's the politics that are giving Trump some of his biggest polling numbers yet. Hey, before you go, gang, do not miss out. Every Friday, my weekly wrap-up gives you everything you missed during the week. Live streams, top videos, podcasts, events, and the week's biggest Patriot wins. Sign up free at turley.pub/recap and start ending your week with faith, family, and freedom.